Well, good evening, everyone. This is International Memorandum, and I'm Bob Petry. And you're Arlene, aren't you?
I think
That's
so.
Arlene Petry, my other half. This is a Saturday night on March the 19th, 2005. Do you realize we've been doing this since 1986?
It's hard to realize that. It's so long.
Yes. You know one thing we ought to do? We ought to turn our retirement slip into the station and let them give us a pension after 20 years. Almost
That's a long
20.
time down
One
here.
more 20.
20 years.
Anyway, television is a very fine, wonderful thing because you can actually make certain things to insert elsewhere.
Yes.
And on Code 6.4, our program on Thursday evening, we're doing a series on the book of Revelation. And we've just started that, and we've done 5 shows on it so far. And we thought we would take the opportunity on this program, since the Code 6.4 is every other week, that in order to get a certain program or two in that may or may not be able to be possible later, we would take the opportunity on International Memorandum to make a somewhat of an introductory tape. Not so much to the book of Revelation, but more an introductory to why would we have any right to talk about a book on Revelation?
And why not?
Which is a book on prophecy. Well, why not? Well, that's why we want to explain why. Now, there are a couple other things that I want to make clear on this program, because there are different people on, for instance, on our internet discussion list that are not familiar with us. And there are even a few people that are critics who don't even know us, just know me by name, and know that I have said we have hit some prophetic events on the nose right here on television, and they don't believe that because they've never seen it. And so they believe certain things about me and my wife that are absolutely not true. So we want to dispel that this evening, and then show you an insert of things that we've done in the past to show you why I think we're qualified to speak on the book of Revelation. Now, the one point I really want to make clear to everyone is this: there is no church to join. We have no group, we have no church, there is no assembly, there's no secret organization at all. Now, that doesn't mean that people can't be interested in what we're doing, can't learn from what we're doing, and on a rare occasion participate in a fellowship meeting, which we have rarely, like every so many years. Not weekly, not 2 or 3 times a week, not monthly, but on rare occasions we do have those. So those of you that want to criticize us and say the reason you do the television show is to get money, that's ludicrous, because there is no way that that's possible. And since there is no group that has to be funded, then that's ludicrous to even profess something about something like that in a critical forum of anybody that believes the Bible. Basically, that's what the forum is about, is criticizing people that believe in the Scriptures. So this set of programs, the Code 6.4 program, is not for getting a following. It is not for building a church, and it is not for building some kind of worldwide organization and a hierarchy of ministers and apostles and evangelists and all of that kind of stuff that the world is just tired of. So, I hope you understand that, and especially those of you that think you are qualified critics. You are not. As the Scriptures say, more than likely you are morons. And that's the Greek word that is used in the Scriptures for people like that, so you might want to get your interlinear out or your Greek dictionary and look up what the word moron means in the Greek, Koine Greek, that is. Now, there's a second thing, too. The interesting thing is that we talk about prophecy on the Code 6.4 program and on an occasion on International Memorandum. Now, because of that, and because we have hit prophetic events in cases where nobody else has, and in fact, we have done something that has not been done, period, anywhere in modern times on this, not on this, but on the Code 6.4 program, and you'll get to see some of that this evening. But we've hit prophetic events, and I do teach some of the scriptures on prophecy. Now let me ask you a question. Does that make me a prophet? If I can read somebody's writings and understand it, let's say in the field of physics, and then I explain to you what that author said, does that make me a physician? Or a physicist, rather? Or if I read a medical book and learn a few things in the medical book that would be good knowledge for anybody to have, and I tell you about that and it happens to be true knowledge, does that make me a doctor? Well, no. If I can tell you how to fly an airplane, does that make me a commercial airline pilot? No. Now, I've said, and I think my wife can verify this quite easily, I've said that I don't have visions, I don't have dreams, I don't hear voices, and I don't have messages from angels. I read and study the Bible. And then I explain to people what I see in the Bible. So since I don't have voices and dreams and visions and things like that, I am not a prophet. The Father does not speak through me. However, I do study His Word, and then I say publicly what I see in His Word. So if you want to say in that sense, I speak His Word, but that's the only sense. Now, how does a prophet, a real prophet, speak for the Father? Well, there are many examples and explanations in the Scriptures about this, but here's one that you should know about. And the reason I'm telling all of this again, I want to go back to this point. What gives me any right to speak on the book of Revelation, which is, in many cases, a book on prophecy? That's a fair question, isn't it, Arlene?
It certainly is.
So we're going to show you tonight what my qualifications are, and it doesn't come from having a PhD or a Doctor of Divinity or that kind of nonsense. It comes from something else. But in the meantime, let me finish this on what is a real prophet. We have an example that I think makes it very clear about someone that's a prophet. You know, King David was considered a prophet among many other things. And in chapter 23 of 2 Samuel, it's explained how the Father speaks through a human being if he is being used as a prophet and or as a psalmist or as an inspired writer of the Scriptures. And I am none of those. I don't create songs, I don't write Scripture, and I don't prophesy. I have no direct connection in any way whatsoever that way, where I get some kind of off-the-wall thing and start talking about it. So here's a good explanation to show why I'm not a prophet. Chapter 23, 2 Samuel, verse 1. Now these be the last words of David. David, the son of Jesse, said, and the man who was raised up on high, the anointed of the Elohim of Jacob, and the sweet psalmist of Israel, said. Now listen close, friends. Especially listen closely if you're one of the viewers that have been following us for years. The Spirit of Yahweh spake by me, and His word was in my tongue. That's David. That's how David was able to communicate the Father's word and the Psalms, etc., 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 in written form and in oral form to the people of his day. Let me read it in another translation. This is the basic English translation. It says, the Spirit of Yahweh had voice through me. His word was on my tongue. So, under no circumstances can some critic who wants to criticize Bible believers, there is no way he can excuse his folly by calling me a prophet. Because you know why they do that and why he does it? Because if he says, you call yourself a prophet and you think you're a prophet, Well, then Deuteronomy and these other scriptures tell me that you're a false prophet. Nonsense. That's his excuse not to listen to this word called the Bible, and all I'm doing is repeating what the Bible says. It has nothing to do with being a prophet. Anybody can do this if they'll put their time in to study. Now, with that said, by the way, Arlene, when was the last time we had church services?
We never have. We never.
You know, we left the group that we used to fellowship with when we were not ministers or anything like that back in 1978?
Oh, a long time ago. Yeah.
So, friends, those of you that are going to watch this DVD, please understand this is not a calling program to get people saved and to get you to join a group. There is a time, if you'll read prophecy, there is a time when a warning message goes out to the world. And I'm not saying that that warning message is limited to us. What I am saying is this: the purpose of Code 6.4 and the purpose of teaching people about prophecy and the purpose of starting through Revelation, because we're going to go through the other prophets, the reason for doing that is to warn the world. It's late, it's over. No more calling, so to speak, with the full truth to get people saved. There's already enough information out there that if you were called and you resisted, well, you'll just have to wait for another day. So don't expect to be coming to us and saying, Bob, you're our minister now, because you know what? I ain't your minister now. Don't be calling me or my wife and saying, okay, Bob, you're our prophet or our apostle or our evangelist or pastor or counselor or whatever, because I ain't none of those, and I ain't going to be none of those. That is not my calling. That has nothing to do with my personality. And it just is not going to be. However, I am going to tell you what's coming, and I am going to tell you specifically, and I am going to tell you that when I tell you what's coming, when I finally get to the point that it's okay to tell you, it's coming. And it's coming when I tell you. Well, you better start getting used to that. Those of you especially that are critics of what we're doing, and those of you that think you know more than I do about prophecy, that, excuse me, teach something totally opposite to what we're saying here on the Code 6.4 show and on internet, excuse me, and on International Memorandum. So what we want to do tonight, Arlene, is show an insert.
Yes.
Now this insert, let me give you a background on it. This was originally done in October of 2001. So you're going to see us introduce it in 2001, and the inserts we're going to introduce are inserts from August and September of 2001. And you're going to see on those inserts that we called something very spectacular, and nobody else on this planet did. Nobody else on this planet did this. And you can complain all you want, and you can disagree all you want, and those of you that have never seen this before, who are going to be seeing it, you can deny it all you want. But we did it, and we're going to be doing it again and again and again. And I mean to tell you, you better start sitting up and listening, because we're not calling you to get you saved. We're not calling you to get you into a group. You better get used to that, those of you that are watching the program and think otherwise, or those of you that hear about the program or me and think otherwise. That's not the purpose at all for what we're doing. Anyway, this insert will show you what we've done in the past and give you a clue to what we're going to be doing in the future, because we're going to tell you what's coming, where it's going to come, and when. oh, we have a new director tonight, and I hope the new director is ready with the tape because I'm ready to go for it anytime you want to do the insert. So I'll just keep talking or chatting until it starts. Here we go. And I think it's a show that some of you won't believe on first viewing. But you know, there is something going on in the world today. It's very important, and we are on the leading edge of what is happening in the world. And we are telling you because we believe you, the public, wherever you are in the world, need to understand what is going on in today's world news and why and what's coming upon us. Now, some of you I know do not believe in the book called the Bible, and that's fine. It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. It's going to happen what it says, whether you believe or not. But there is one thing that is presented in that book that those of you watching this program and this tape need to consider. And that is this. In the book of Amos, which is one of the minor prophets in what's called the Old Testament, in chapter 3 and verse 7, it says this, and I'm going to read it right out of that book for you. Surely the sovereign Yahweh does nothing without revealing his plan to his servants, the prophets. And let me tell you, that plan was revealed, and the prophets are in this book. And if you know how to read them, you can understand them. And that's what this program is about tonight, and what this tape is about that you are watching. About that revealing in our day of his plan. Well, Arlene, I'm looking forward to
taking a look at the
doing this
different
tape
inserts
and looking at the inserts and
Yeah.
everything. And if you were going to explain to someone either on the street, at dinner, or even here on television what they're about to see,
what would I say?
What would you say to
Well,
them?
I just tell them, Bob, that the people are going to see something that's never been done before, and that it's literal Bible prophecy being spoken about before it happens and not after it happens. And we are the #1 people that do this.
That's right. This is the...
And it's the real McCoy. The real McCoy, folks, so pay attention.
Yeah, because this
Really?
has never been done before. There are people all over this planet that profess to teach what the Bible says when it comes to prophecy. And sometimes they're very close. Most of the time they're way off, even on what they think is going to happen. But what we do that is totally different is we are specific as to where and to whom, and the one thing no one else has ever done before in modern days, when. No one else can do that. And why we've been chosen to be able to do that, I can't tell you. But we have been. And this show tells you literally what is coming to pass before it does. We don't look in the news after the fact and say, oh, such and such happened. Let's see if we can find something in the Bible that looks like that. That's the way people do these so-called Bible codes and everything. They always find something in the news after the fact.
After the fact.
And then they go to the Bible. What we do is we go to the Bible and say, okay, folks, this is what's in the Bible. This is what's going to happen. And you're going to read it in your newspaper tomorrow, next week, or a couple of years from now, or whatever. And guess what? You do. After we tell you exactly what it is. So we're going to begin with an insert this evening to show you some of the things we've done in the past, and also what is happening after this insert is done, what is happening now in the present that we told you about in the past. Because we truly do, for whatever reason the Father's let us do this, we truly do tell you what is going to happen before it happens, and not in generalities. So if the tape is ready, we would like to begin that insert, and it runs for about 15 minutes. Pretty close to that.
Mm-hmm. It may not be quite ready yet.
Well, here's what it says in
There we
Ezekiel
go.
beginning verse 21.
and it's Ezekiel chapter 12. It says, "And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, what is that proverb that you have in the land of Israel?" You know, what are the people saying? What do they go by? And here's what the proverb that people say, and they've been saying it for millennia now. "The days are prolonged, and every vision fails."
Right.
"Tell them, therefore, thus says Yahweh Elohim, I will make this proverb to cease." And if this is the time, we better start sitting up and listening. "I will make this proverb to cease, and they shall no more use it as a proverb in Israel. But say unto them, the days are at hand, and the effect of every vision. For there shall be no more any vain vision, nor flattering divination within the house of Israel." You know, some people believe the descendants of Western Europe and America, Australia, South Africa, are supposedly the descendants of the lost tribes of Israel.
I know that.
But whether that is true or not, this principle applies to us today, because prophecy was talking about a future time.
Right.
And probably our time. "For there shall be no more any vain vision nor flattering divination within the house of Israel. For I am Yahweh, I will speak, and the word that I shall speak shall come to pass. It shall be no more prolonged. For in your days, O rebellious house." Whoa, and that certainly fits a picture I see today. "Anyway, in your days, O rebellious house, will I say the word and will perform it, says Yahweh Elohim. Again the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, behold, they of the house of Israel say, the vision that he sees is for many days to come," way off in the future. "And he prophesies of the times that are far off. Therefore say unto them, thus says Yahweh Elohim, there shall none of my words be prolonged any more, but the words which I have spoken shall be done, says Yahweh Elohim."
And I think shortly.
Yeah, so watch. You heard it right here on this program that Israel's going to spill over into the land of
There'll be
Jordan.
so many people there.
And they're going to spill over into Lebanon.
Right. What can they do?
But there will be specifically a trade-off that Israel will do. Israel's going to give up the Gaza Strip. Now, whether that means total autonomy is given to the Palestinians that move in there or not, it's not really clear, but they will have control of that area, and it'll be specifically for them. And prophetically speaking, the Philistines will have returned to that land. Another thing, very simple, very simple things. Months and months and months ago, before anybody even talked about it, nobody was talking about it in the Middle East by the participants there, or even here, in the same way, at least, that we were. We said, Israel is going to give up the Gaza Strip.
Yes, yes.
No. And actually, she's going to give that up, but she's going to gain land by moving further into Jordan and further up into Lebanon, in actual fact. But the Gaza Strip is going to be given over in some form or manner to the Palestinians. There's no way around it. It's just prophesied, and it is happening, and we were saying this months before they would even publicly talk about it.
Exactly.
And what are the Israelis saying now? We're willing to talk about it.
See?
And it will happen.
But how many people will really sit up and take
We have a friend that we like to poke fun at one another a little bit in a friendly sort of way, but I'm going to be interested to see Shrimp whistle.
Oh. Okay.
But I say that in fun and humor,
of course,
not in any seriousness of in
we
the
love
wrong
him.
way.
We love him.
But the thing is, this is going to occur.
Absolutely.
There are some other things that we've talked about is going to occur. Iran, modern-day ancient Persia, and this is something I wanted to get into about some of the prophecy things later on in the show. Iran, through some kind of, I don't know how it's, interplay back and forth with Israel or through intermediaries or something, they are going to help fund the rebuilding of the temple. Now listen up, folks. This is August of the year 2001. Now either this next month or October, these next 2 months coming, we're going to have the beginning of some kind of major event in the Middle East. Now, there's a little bit of a problem here because scripturally there is not a pinpointed exact year, but there is a time frame that runs between September of this year and September of 2003. So we've got what, September to 2002, that's a 2-year period. And during this 2-year period, we need to be watching the Middle East because one of several things is going to occur. One of them is possibly all-out war starting next month or the month after. And if it doesn't, it's going to start sometime between this September and September of 2003. Well, there you go. Now, friends, Romans and countrymen and people out there, you tell me anybody that can pinpoint it that close. That was August the 4th this year. And we said, right there in front of your eyes, this month coming, which at that time was September or October, that something major was going to happen, and we went on to explain that it could possibly be war. Now it's interesting, we're running into October right now, and I said September or the next month of October, so we had a major event, I think, didn't we, in September? In October, it may be fulfilling the rest of that, because it looks as if the American forces are getting ready to do something in Afghanistan. We'll see. Could very well be happening as we speak or tomorrow morning, sometime during Sunday or Monday. We don't know. But we do know we're right in the right time frame, and we know the chronology of the Bible. Now look, I showed you from September 1st that the temple ultimately had something to do with this, and that's when all of this started, over that temple. Then August the 4th here, we said next month or October something major is going to happen. And then 2 or 3 programs later, on September the 1st of this year, we had this short little thing to say. There's a larger thing we said in the show, but I didn't have time for that. But I want you to see this now. So from September 1st, what we said in August of this year, on August the 4th, you cannot deny that. And the source of that is from the Father and the Bible, not from dreams and visions and voices. This is the real McCoy, folks. And only on this program will you ever, in your lifetime, see such a thing occur. Now, here's what we said on September the 1st. You figure it out. We want to start, as I said, dating our show, and today is the 911 show, because it's the beginning of the emergency call. 911, September the 1st of 2001. Get it? 911. This is the 911 call.
That's it.
So that when we show these tapes in the next few weeks for people that want to say, well, you didn't really do that, Bob, well, we got these tapes so locked down. We've shown them publicly now, and we have a date on them, so nobody can deny what you're going to see with your eye, because it's going to happen big time, and it's starting now. And you better start watching and keeping your eye on the Middle East and on Israel and on the Palestinians, who are the descendants of the Philistines. You better watch southern Lebanon. You better watch Jordan. You better watch Iran and Iraq. Better watch Egypt. You better watch this show if you want to know what's coming. And if you just might want to get out of the way of what's coming, you better watch this show, Code 64, worldwide, on the internet, and on cable in Tucson. And guess what? We'll be back, Father willing, next week and start telling you like it is. I want to show you something that I normally don't show the public because it's personal. We've shown you on this television program, if you've watched any time at all, the inserts of our past programs where we have said certain things. Now, if you recall, on August the 4th of this year, which was the month preceding September of this year, when all of this commotion began, we said on this program, and some of you saw it, and you don't think about it, and you don't give it much credence, and you don't understand the importance of it, of what you are hearing and seeing with your own eyes and ears. You are seeing what the prophets and the disciples and the believers for hundreds of years have waited to see and hear, and we're giving it to you right now in your eyes and your ears, and you don't believe it. But on August the 4th, verifiable, because we showed you the inserts, the tapes are dated, it was shown here publicly on this station, that we said in September or October a major event would occur. Can you deny that? No. Will you believe it? I don't care. We did it. The proof is there, and no one else has ever done such a thing. Literally. At least not in our modern times. So now I want to show you something that I wrote, because I date my writings also. Some of my notes that I wrote, and you'll see when I wrote them, but I want to show you what the notes are on what we call the Elmo. It's a little camera, so I can push a button and hopefully it will come up on the screen. So let me show you what I have in my notes. This, if you understand even the slightest of what you're about to see and the import of it, it ought to make chills run up and down your spine, because we folks are talking about the fact that the creator of this universe lives. The fact that the Bible is true. The fact that the Bible gives prophecy in specifics. And the fact that we have been given the ability to see what those prophecies are and when they will occur. I want to show you this now. I hope the Elmo's working. These are my notes. Look what it says up at the top there. 1994-5, September. Agreement with Palestinians for the Gaza and Jericho. See that? Then it says August 2001. And I wrote in there now. Below that, September 2003, between August and September. Look what I wrote. Catastrophic event. And then I wrote agreement to build temple. High priest appears. September, October 2010. See that? September, October 2010. Temple finished. Anti-Messiah appears, question mark. And then it says here, construction by man named Zerubbabel, or name that means the same thing, or means that. Now, here's what I want to show you, that if you understand anything at all, I want to show you up here what it says. July 30th, 2001. July 30th, 2001. War, September, October 2001 or 2002. Or from September, October 2001 through 2002. I wrote that in July 30th, before we talked to you on August the 4th, before we talked to you on the next program, and before we talked to you on September the 1st and September the 8th. Do you understand what we're telling you? Do you understand the import of what you are seeing? Now, question for you. We're fighting, and when I say we, I'm talking about the United States and some of its allies and partners are fighting in Afghanistan right now. And I can tell you for a fact, it will not stop there. It will continue. Why? You think, some of you, it's because of some conspiracy. Some of you think It's because of an agreement that was broken by the elder Bush with Osama bin Laden over oil through Afghanistan. Some of you think it's because it's the beginning of the New World Order, and some of you think it's conspiracies to take over the American government and all these things. And you know what? The end results will be pretty close to that. But that's not the reason. The reason the World Trade Center was bombed, it's very simple. It's because of this. You understand? You know what that is? This is an artist's portrayal of what the temple might have looked like. And a temple is going to be rebuilt in Israel. And I can tell you right now, without this battle going on right now in Afghanistan, without the bombing of the World Trade Center, without the new realignments of nations in the Middle East and Europe and other places brought about by this, that temple would not be rebuilt. Neither would there have been or be a Palestinian state. Why is this happening? It's happening because that temple is prophesied to be rebuilt, and there's only one way to get approval for rebuilding it. And that is to have such a catastrophe of some sort happen to cause these nations to want peace. And there's only one way, if you understand the Middle East, to bring about peace, and that is religiously, quote unquote. And there is only one opposing religious thing or object or presence that would equal a major giving in of the Muslims and the Arabs to Israel in order to save their rear ends from total destruction. And that is an agreement for peace and to rebuild the temple as a good faith token that we will maintain the peace. That's what this is about. Well, folks, I just wonder if you get the import of what you've been seeing so far. This is not the end of it. And the thing I'd like for you to understand is we are only showing you information primarily about one topic that we have talked about before it occurred. We have enough material for 2 or 3 or 4 other tapes like this. And if we get the time, we'll produce them. But until then, I guess we won't. Now, did you notice the dates on the screen? We put those dates on there so that you can see when we said what we said. And we have the actual literal tapes that are properly dated, so if anyone wants to inspect the tapes themselves, they can see that we put the exact correct date on the screen of when we said these things that you just saw. And that's important. But I wonder if you also noticed the fact...
Wow. That is very interesting to watch that all over again.
Yes, it is.
Because, you know, sometimes even when you're doing that,
you're right in the middle of it. So
you're right in the middle of it, and
it makes a difference.
It makes a difference when you can look back and see
Just
what
watch
was
it.
said and the warning ahead of time.
Right.
You know, we did a show on September the 8th. It was the last one, I believe it was the 8th, before September 11th happened.
Uh-huh.
And people probably thought by that point, well, you know, that's just Bob and Arlene, right? Just
Right.
Bob and Arlene ranting and raving because they think they know the Bible and we know the Bible ain't true and it's just a bunch of nonsense. And there are a couple of kooks that think they have to do this little public access show down there that means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the interesting thing was I was up early that morning on September 11th, and I had done something, and I thought, well, I got up too early or whatever it was, I'll just lay down and take a nap. So I laid down on the floor with a pillow and started taking a nap, and I got a phone call. I'd just gotten to where I was almost
Asleep?
almost asleep. And one of our viewers had called. It's a fellow we met down here originally at the station. And he says, Bob, says, you better turn your television on and you better watch, and I'm going to get off now because this is important. So he hung up immediately. I turned the TV on and I watched it a couple of minutes, watching the first tower. And then the next thing I know, there's this plane coming at a sort of a turning angle and ran into the second tower. And that just blew me away, because I knew at that point that this was beginning. And, you know, it's a funny thing, because in the end, people don't understand this at the moment, but in the end, all of this is going to work out just fine.
Yes.
All of those people that were horribly killed in that stupidity of mankind in New York, they're all going to be resurrected and given eternal life and brought back to complete personality and complete beings, and they will live for eternity.
Well, it's very interesting, Bob, that morning I had been sick, rarely sick, but I had an upset stomach, and I was lying on the floor next to the bathroom for convenience, and you called me, and I thought, oh, what does he want? I feel so sick. And as soon as I got to see what was happening, it just went away. And, you know, you wonder, because a lot of people that are sensitive a lot of times have things happen to them.
Yes.
To kind of,
well, that was
like
very,
a warning,
yes.
You know.
And you know, there was another...
Very sensitive.
Yes, very sensitive. That really, even though I didn't know it was going to be in New York, I knew it was going to affect, more than likely, the U.S., to cause something to occur in the Middle East, or that they would be involved in the Middle East, and that's the way it worked out. But you know, the scripture didn't say watch for the 2 Trade Center buildings, but it did say something is coming, and it's big time. But the interesting thing is, in rewatching that, there was this, the one insert was on October the 6th. And remember, I said on that the American forces looks like they're getting prepared to do something, and maybe as we speak or tomorrow morning. Well, tomorrow morning was October the 7th, and that's what the headlines were in the newspapers, that that the American forces had just opened warfare, or combat, or contact, or however you want to call it. But you know, it's exciting to be able to see these things in advance and understand them. But it's sad in many ways too. Yes, it is. It's very sad. Because you have to yell and scream at people to tell them to get out of the middle of the highway. There's a big truck coming, and they won't listen to you. Yeah. They just think that you don't know what you're talking about, and that it's all hoopla, and that nobody's ever done this, so who do you think you are? I know who you are, Bob. You're just this little character that runs down there to public access once in a while, and you're no big deal. I know you personally. You got your quirks here and there, and your hair isn't always the way I like it, and you don't always dress up fancy and all this. Yeah, yeah. Exterior. And then they see it happen, and all of a sudden they ignore it, and yet they knew that we said it. They've seen it coming, didn't believe it even after it happened. But don't you think that TV programs people to such a degree that when they see something happening on TV, they don't really think it's happening. They think it's another movie. I mean, that's just how we've been programmed. That is the sad part about TV. Yeah, really. Because everybody gets programmed, well, it's just a moving picture. Yeah. And well, that was just a cartoon, or that was a digitized thing, Bob, or you probably somehow embedded the dates on the screen or something, not realizing that that's, you know, verified down here by the play date and everything of the shows. But it's a blessing and it's a cursing at the same time, because it's a blessing to know what to be prepared for, and it's a curse because nobody will listen. And then there are those that say, well, you didn't do that, Bob. No, you didn't do that. There's no way you could do that. You're lying. I had somebody on the internet tell me I was a liar, saying that I did that. They've never seen the inserts or anything. Now, having said all of that and having seen the inserts, friends, and you can see Arlene and I are nothing of and by ourselves special.
Just people.
She's not a prophetess, and I'm not a prophet. I'm not an apostle, and she's not an epistle. We're just two human beings that happen to believe this book. And that's a rarity in this world. And because of that, now there are a lot of people that profess to believe this book, but I'm talking about we believe it for real. You know, a belief can be based on, well, I believe it's possible to just walk into the ocean and breathe underwater. That's not a real belief. A lot of people believe the Bible that way, and then more than likely it's, sir, I believe the Bible. See, there it is. I don't believe what it says, but I believe there's the Bible. And that's about where it goes. But the whole thing about this, now that you've seen it, folks, is I want to go back to this point. What gives me a right to talk about and start explaining to people the book of Revelation? Well, I think there is a little bit of credentials behind that now. And it's not because I've told you I think something's going to happen. I can actually tell you where and when things are going to happen. Sometimes I can't tell you exactly the month or day, although I have done that in the past. But I can tell you for sure the general time frame, and I can tell you what trends to watch for, and I can also tell you some very specific things. Some things we haven't even broached on the program yet because it's not time, I don't think. But that, you've seen what our qualifications are and my qualifications to speak on a book in the Bible called Apocalypsis. Apocalypsis Jesu Christo. The Apocalypsis, or the Apocalypse, or the book of Revelation of Yahshua the Messiah. And next Thursday on Code 6.4, we will continue on in this series on the book of Revelation, or the Apocalypsis. And that will make the 6th program actually in the book. This will make a sort of like a 7th and introductory program so that we can have this in a complete series and introduce it for some free lessons for people, etc., so they can see for themselves, along with the written material we're sending to them, that they can see some things here for sure in their own eyes. So we're coming up on just about a minute left, Arlene.
Yeah, wow, that went fast.
Well, it certainly goes fast when you have an insert, folks. If you've ever done television, it's real nice to have an insert to give you time to recuperate from what's necessary in describing or discussing things on the show. But next week we will start on chapter 1, verse 4 of Revelation, because we've gone through 5 programs now plus this one, and we've only been from chapter 1, verse 1 to chapter 1, verse 3.
Right.
Now it's time with the proper setup and foundation to begin through the book in earnest and travel a bit faster in it.
Good.
I think so. And I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to a lot of progress. And in this coming year, as long as the station is still here, we're going to start revealing some very interesting things to you to let you know what's coming ahead of time. And most people, I don't think anybody else can do it like we can. So far. The Father's blessed us that way. And I don't know why, but I'm certainly appreciative of it. Well, shall we say goodbye pretty quick here?
Good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie. So we're coming down about a half a minute left in the show, and we have to have a conclusion and all that. So we'll see you next Thursday, folks. Come back again. Bye-bye.